Hello and welcome. Let's talk tabletop. Today's question or query or topic comes from Blazers144. I'm imagining a very suave, well-dressed person sitting at a keyboard typing. And he or she asks, wonder if you had advice for running duet games. That is, a tabletop game where you've got a dungeon master and one player. Now, there's a lot of stuff that can go into duet games, but by and large, they are a lot simpler to run than, a 4 or a 5 or a 6-person party. Because as a DM, you only got to worry about one person, and oftentimes, in terms of planning, in terms of rewards, in terms of lots of things, it's 100 times easier than a regular campaign, and it makes for a great teaching tool because if you have somebody that wants to get in on all this, whether it be D&D or Pathfinder or Call of Cthulhu or whatever, having some one-on-one time is probably the best idea there is, because like throwing them into a party of people that already know what's going on, they're going to sink into the background and watch, or they're going to be too shy to do a bunch of stuff, or rare be it that you get the raring to go newbie who just jumps right the hell in. And it does happen, but by and large, no, not really. I've actually taught a number of people, including the guy that played Fudo Padclaw, how to play D&D or Pathfinder, doing a duet game, and they can be very interesting and very they're a lot more focused. There's a lot less chaos going on. So if you need to teach somebody Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder or whatever, it's a good idea to do a duet game with them and just kind of let them explore, let them figure out what they want to do, how they want to play, what they place value in, whether it be fame and fortune or just magic items or just gold pieces or just, challenging everybody they see to a sword fight to prove that they are, in fact, the best swordsman in the land, or whatever it happens to be. It's a great way to get a measure of what kind of player they are, so that in the future, you can kind of get an idea as to whether or not they will gel with the other players in your group, or with this group of players, or with that group of players, or if they should remain by themselves, because there are people like that just, they're playing Oblivion, they're playing Skyrim, they don't understand that it's a team sport. And you kind of, lesson 2 kind of has to be, yes, you've got teammates, and if you wander off, it's going to be really boring, or you're going to be dead, one of the two. But anyway, duet games, one-on-one. Let's see, I've got my little page of notes here. In duet games, I've noticed, and you probably have too, that there's really no such thing as overpowered. And the reason for that is because there's no one to compare them to. So, like, if you've got a guy who throws everything into his weapons and he's whipping the ass of everything he comes across, that's fine. Or if you've got a rogue that is just never detected because he threw all of his skill points into sneak, move silently, and open lock, that's fine too. There's nobody that's going to tromp through and plate mail that's going to get him caught. Or if you've got a bard that smooth talks his way out of everything because nobody can get over his fucking diplomacy or innuendo or charisma score, that's fine too. A lot of one-trick ponies come out of duet games, but you can let them enjoy that power because there's really nobody to compare them to. The same thing goes for loot and money. But yeah, I've noticed over the years, having done several duet games, that 3 classes tend to pop up the most. Number 1 is the rogue, of course, because he has all the skill points. They can be a jack of all trades and do whatever they want. You start the game with 40 skill points and you're by yourself. Yeah, you can decide to do whatever the hell you want. There's the paladin, because of course you might want to play the the holy knight, the champion of the people, or you just might want to wear plate mail and be able to heal yourself and be pretty good in melee and have magic, and they're kind of OP anyway. So, and the same thing goes for the cleric. Those are kind of the big three. You know, heavy armor, magic, the ability to heal yourself, and a fair number of skill points. Or if you just want to be all skill points and be able to build whatever kind of character you could possibly imagine, those people go with rogue if they want to be sneaky, or if they want to be the face rogue, or if they want to drop ultimate crit attacks with like feints and stuff. The people that walk alone will usually pick those three classes, in my experience. And I'm sure there's other people. There's people that want to be lone rangers or lone monks. I'm sure there's fighters do very well on their own. Not so much wizards and sorcerers, not early on at least, but like by and large what I've seen is all rogues and paladins or clerics that kind of walk alone, if you will. And like I was saying, again, they're by themselves, so you have to adjust for extra money and extra loot. You know, they're not splitting the bill at the tavern or the brothel or from the potions master or anything like that. They're spending all their money on themselves, and the prices don't change. So if you know they're going to be stopping at all these different inns, drop a few extra gold points or gold coins. Or if you know that they're really hurting every time they run into something that does lightning damage, don't be afraid to drop 2 magic items that will serve as a buffer against lightning damage, because there's no party members around to be jealous. Why does he keep getting all the magic items? What the hell? No, they're on their own. And again, going back to using this as a teaching tool, you know, if you can teach them about elemental resistance, you know, drop a necklace, drop 3 magic rings, and they can rotate rings every other day, or whatever it happens to be. Tell them, hey, you know, they're going into a demon circus, and there's a fire-breathing juggler guarding the door, and you're like, okay, I take off my lightning ring and I put on my fire ring. So now when I take 15 lightning damage, I'll only take 5 fire damage instead. And you can teach that concept to them in that fashion. So don't be afraid to throw extra loot on them. And even especially with rings, you can give them 10 rings, but they can only wear 2 of them. So they have to make that decision themselves. Or magic items or arrows that automatically return to the quiver and never break, or whatever it happens to be. There's no such thing as OP because they're by themselves. You have no party members to compare them to. You have nobody that's going to be jealous, nobody that's going to be envious, nobody that's going to split the gold. You know, they run across a treasure chest of 10,000 gold. That's their 10,000 gold. They don't have to split it with anybody. So if there's nobody to compare them to, you can make them as overpowered as you possibly want, depending on what kind of power fantasy you're going through. Because let's face it, if they're running around by themselves, it's probably going to be a power fantasy. But there's nothing wrong with that. Let's see, what else? And of course, you have to keep unfair situations in mind. What do we call it in college? The toll booth. Yes. If you're running... this is something that GMs usually learn very early on. If there's not a rogue in the party, you shouldn't be throwing traps everywhere. Because past a certain threshold, I think it's like 20 to spot or 20 to search or whatever, if it's like 21 or higher and they're not a rogue, then they can't find it. Rogues have trap finding, and that's one of their class abilities. And if you throw a trap and it's not possible for them to find it, then it becomes a toll booth. And the toll is health points. And that pisses people off, because it's like, well, yeah, there's a swinging blade trap there, and, you know, it's so thin and it's worked into the brickwork in such a way the spot check to find it is a 22. And first of all, that's outrageous, but roll with it. You know, if you were a rogue, you would have spotted it, but I'm afraid, you know, you just had your reflex save and you failed that reflex save, so you're going to take 3d8 or whatever it happens to be. That's bullshit. So, Don't have anything in your campaign that they can't do. Traps are a big one. What else? Traps are kind of the main one. Or if it happens to be like use magic item that's through the roof or whatever it happens to be. Don't drop anything in front of them that they have no possible option to do, because when there's a party, you've got the wizard that can use magic items, you've got the rogue that can find traps, you've got the fighter that can get in the way, and so on and so forth. Everybody brings their own toolkit, but if you've only got, a fighter and he's running into dart traps every 15 feet, he's just paying the toll to go by in the hallway, and that's not fair. So keep unfair situations, traps especially, in mind. Otherwise, they're just going to get mad. So, let's see what else. Give them friends and allies. They, though they may walk alone through their adventures, they may have friends or lovers or lieutenants or captains or people in the army that know them or people in the wizard's tower that knows them. Nobody goes through life without human contact, so make sure and don't pull the bullshit betrayal line. Go get like a D12 and roll it and say, okay, that's how many friends they've got. Here's how they know them. Here, a school sweetheart, a childhood friend, 2 family members, a best buddy who's with them currently, and, a girl that looks at him that way anytime he's in town, whatever it happens to be. There need to be people that treat them well, and yeah, you can have a betrayal plot, but that better be like 1 in like 27 people, because if you set up 3 NPCs and one of them betrays your lone adventurer, suddenly they're not going to trust anybody else ever again. And yeah, there's a lot of betrayal plots all through D&D, and named NPCs that stick around and do not betray you are more of a rarity than they ought to be. But whether it be the secretly evil king, or the secretly evil benefactor, or the secretly evil best buddy or lover, or whore that turns out to be a succubus, or whatever it happens to be, somebody who has turned to darkness and, join me, or now you've fulfilled your purpose, now die. That's boring. Don't do it. Or if you have to do it, make sure they're like one person in a crowd of 12 people that they know, because if you give them a reason not to trust one person, they're not going to trust anybody, because they're by themselves. And you got to remember that all the time. The last thing I wanted to talk about, and probably the most technical, is to remember your CR ratings, your challenge ratings. They're on their own, and yes, you can give them like NPC allies, whether they've got plot armor or not. You can give them allies, but by and large in a duet game, you are on your own. So, you get 2 actions and then your turn is done. And the action economy can suck if the DM keeps rolling 19s, and it does happen. So remember your scale of 4, at least in D&D and Pathfinder. If it's your level minus 4, it's a pretty guaranteed victory. If it's your level minus 3, there might be a little challenge in there. You might take a hit. If it's your level minus 2, it's going to be kind of rough. If it's your level minus 1, that's a dangerous enemy. If it's your level, there's a just statistically speaking, there's a 50-50 chance that you're going to die. Okay? And this is not a boss fight. This is just by and large. Like if you have a level 1 fighter and you put him up against like a goblin, a goblin is like a challenge rating of 1/3. So statistically speaking, 3 goblins can take a level 1 fighter. There's a 50-50 shot for either side to win. And, he might have 12 health, but he's only got 2 actions, and those goblins got 6 actions. So just, the action economy can suck. Or if you've got a level 1 fighter versus a level 1 ranger, statistically speaking, 50-50. And if you're trying to have an adventure that's going to last for a while, a 50-50 shot of death, and you're wandering around by yourself, so nobody's going to resuscitate you, that's it. That's going to be a game ender. So remember, watch your CR ratings very closely. Study the math. Make sure, not every fight has to be a knockdown, drag out, you could have died just then sort of thing. Even if you're like up in the higher levels and you've got, like a level 10 fighter versus a pair of level 5 guys, they've got a CR of 6. But they've still got more actions than you. They can still flank you. They can still do a number of things if you're by yourself. So allies are usually a good idea, but by and large, power fantasies like Duet games don't have that. So be very, very careful about how you design your combat encounters. So I guess those are kind of the main things. Blazers 144, I hope that helped you out, and I hope that sounded like good advice or good points to think about when running Duet games. What do you guys think? Have you ever run a Duet game or participated in a Duet game? How did it go? Were you taught D&D like me through a Duet game, or did you get thrown into a party right away and just kind of learn by the seat of your pants? Or did you teach somebody D&D, doing a Duet game? How did that experience go? Were they too young? Were they too uppity? Did they not understand it was eventually going to be a team sport later? I'm sure there's some horror stories. Put that in the comments below, and let's talk tabletop. So, until next time, guys, keep gaming.